In the previous video we had discussed about sample database application. In that we have discussed about the ER diagram of a company database, and we have seen these things practically as well as theoretically how this could be implemented. Now let us understand briefly about the database applications or the company database. Now here the company database is organized into departments, and each department has a unique name. About that we have discussed. Unique means there is no duplication of records, so each department will have a unique name there, and that we are representing by keeping the primary key for department number, then unique number, and then a particular employee in the department also you will have a unique identity, and that we are managing by SSN in the employee table. It's his SSN number will be unique, and department also controls the number of projects. If you get a question on this company database, you have to write this diagram, and these points you have to mention. The company department manages different projects, so that we define by controls, and the and the department table number department number is linked with the project table department number. Okay, then social security number, address, salary, section, birth date. See, next concept is in employee table we are storing all the details such as name, salary, and all these things, and an employee is assigned to each department but works on several projects. So that is the relationship what they have given. Employee works for a single department, he may works on more than one project. That relationship is shown here in the ER diagram, and we are also keeping the track of current number of hours per week an employee works on project, and that works on table, the project hours that we have described using a works on table in our practical. Then we also keep the track of direct supervisor to the each employees who works for the employee. That is, here in employee table we have a SSN number and MGR SSN number in department table, that we had altered the link using alter command. Means MGR SSN number will have a foreign key which is there in the department table, and the SSR number will have a primary key. So that concept also we have discussed, and we can also keep the track of departments of each employees for insurance purpose, that we are defining by this dependent. So insurance or any other claims it can be given to the dependents of the employee. And we are also keeping each dependent's first name, sex, date of birth, and all these things. We have discussed about all these things in the previous topics, how this is. Now this was about the ER diagram of a company database. Now let us discuss about the key terms here. What is entity and entities and their attributes. So as we know, we have already discussed this term many times. The basic object that ER model represents is an entity. Now if you consider this ER diagram model, employee, department, project, and dependents are entities. And the next topic, that is the attribute. So entity has some properties, and those properties are called as attributes. Such as for a employee entity, attributes are first name, MINIT, last name, birth date, name, address, salary, and so on. So here when we talk about you can see for entity the example given are person, car, house, employee of a company, job, and all. And as far as the attribute is concerned, so if you consider the employee entity, the attributes are age, address, name, and all these things what it is shown in the ER diagram. So in these topics we will be discussing the same terms which are coming under this ER diagram, such as this is employee is an entity. I will consider only one entity. and these are all the attributes. In those attributes also you can see some of the attributes are underlined, correct? Here name, number and all, these are key attributes like that, and these are the different relationship among the entities. And what are those and things and how it is represented? Again you can see dotted line, it is indicating, then double circles it is indicating. Here you can see these are called as a weak entities. So here if a double bracket is there, or see each and every box in the diagram has some meaning. Those meanings we will learn in the when we learn about the notations in the ER diagram. So there is a separate topic on that. Now I don't want to discuss much in this, but when I discuss that I will come with this ER diagram, and we will discuss this. So both the company database and ER diagram notations, we will keep it together and we will discuss. Now what we are discussing is all the objects or all the components or symbols we have placed. Each one represents a different naming. So that is what we are discussing. Entity means real life object such as employee, department and all. Attribute means the each entity has an attribute. Attributes you can take it as a properties of the entity such as name, address and all these things. Those things we can call it as a attributes. Now let us discuss about two entities and values of that of their attributes. So here we have taken two entities, E1 and C1. You can consider E as an employee, and it has an attribute, and attributes are name, address, age. These are all attributes, okay. And values in those entity, these are also called as a domains. These are also called as a domains. Here you see I want to clarify the things. E is a entity in this diagram. See here you can see employee entity E and the company entity C1. Two we have taken here. This is entity, and name is attribute. Name, age, address, these are all attributes. And values of this are John Smith, 2311 Kirby. These are all the values. So like that you can differentiate among the entities, their values and attributes. Entities are real life things such as employee, and its properties are attributes, or entity contains different attributes such as name, address and all, and the attribute will hold the values. So till in the practical we have learned how to design or create entity tables and attributes. In this we have not learned in practical how the values are stored into the table. On that also I will make a video in future and we will discuss that, okay. So this is regarding the entities, their values and their attributes. Now let us discuss about the different types of attributes. So the attributes can be classified as a simple, composite or atomic attributes. Now what is a composite attribute we will discuss now. So the composite attribute can be further divided into number of sub attributes. Say if you consider the address, or you consider that employee name, here we have taken that name of the employee, we have directly given here, right? But when we consider the table, here we have split it into three parts: F name, M name and L name, correct? Yes. So here in this DR diagram only you can see name is an attribute, and this attribute has some composite attributes. Got it clear? See here we have taken an example of address. Similarly name has a first name, middle name and last name. So that is a composite attribute, okay. The composite attributes can be divided into smaller parts. Each represents more basic attributes. Each are representing more basic attributes. Just a minute. And each attribute will have a different meaning. We will consider the example given in this one. So this also you can take, or you can take the example of the name also, where name has a three different parts, which is first name, middle name and last name. So when we talk about address, it is further divided as street address, city address, state address and zip code, and the state address is further divided as street number, the street and apartment number. So like that, what we can do is we can split the table into number of or attributes into number of sub attributes, and those attributes we can call it as a composite attribute. And when it comes to the simple attribute, uh, the attributes which are not divisible are called simple or atomic attribute. For example, employee number is there, SSN number. It cannot be further divided. Such things we can call it as a simple or atomic attribute. So this is the difference between composite and simple attribute. Now when we talk about the attributes can be further classified as single valued, multi-valued attributes. In single value attribute, in a particular entity such as age, it will have a single value. It will have a single value. Such attributes you can call it as a single value attributes. You cannot further divide it. But there are some attributes where the attribute can have more than one values, such as a car. If you take a car, here color of the car can be more than one. So if you define the car with car in a car entity, if you define a color, so it may contain more than one color, correct? So that color of the car will have multiple attributes such as green, white, black. These are the different car colors what we will have. Such attributes which has more than one value called as a multi-valued, and the attribute which has a single value, that is called as a single valued. The name itself suggests single value means attribute can have only one value. Multi-value means the attribute can have more than one values. Similarly, we can have a stored and a derived attribute. So here in some cases, two or more attributes are related. For example, age and date of birth attribute of a person. Here sometime what happens, suppose assume that you want to calculate the age. Usually what happens is, I will just go back to the table. I want to go back. Okay, here date of birth field is there. Yeah, here you see in this we have a date of birth field. Can you see this here, date of birth field? Okay, now for employee we have taken only date of birth. Suppose assume that you want to calculate the age of the employee, so we don't take a separate field for that. Actually what we can do is we can take the date of birth and the present date, and the difference between these two can give the age of the employee. So here age is a derived attribute, whereas date of birth is a stored attribute. Means instead of storing two different values, because the age is varying after 1 year, suppose assume that if my age is some 40 years now, after 1 year it will be changed and it becomes a 41. So we don't want to update this regularly. Instead of that, what we can do is we can store one attribute, and here we can store date of birth as an attribute. That is what you can see in the ER diagram of the employee table. And what you can do is you can take present date, today's date, okay, current date you can take, and from these two date, between these two from current date, if you subtract birth date, you will get the age of the employee. This is how we can access or we can get the values into the attribute. So the one which is stored into the database, that will be stored attribute, and using that stored value such as date of birth, whatever the attribute we are achieving when we display it on the report, such as age, such attributes we can call it as a derived attribute. Okay, so here age is called as a derived attribute, and it is derivable from date of birth, which is stored as a attribute in the employee table. Next, let us discuss about null values. In some cases what happens is a particular value may not be existing. For example, here one example they have given, that is, if you take employee details, some employee may be not having a graduation. Suppose assume that the attribute is a graduate. Okay, either a commerce graduate or science graduate or a engineer, any graduation. In such cases, what happens is when the employee is not graduated, so that field needs to be empty, kept empty. Such fields you can call it as a null value. Such attributes you can call it as a null value attributes, where we can keep blank values. And in the practical we have discussed about a not null field. Okay, if we set the field as a not null, you cannot leave a null values, and where you have not given the constraint not null, in those fields you can have the null values or empty values. Okay, so these are some of the key attributes. Now let us discuss about one more attribute. See what we have done here now in these topics, we have discussed about different entities, and in those entities what type of attributes we can have. Next is a complex attribute. So here we have to notice one thing here, that is a composite and multi-value attributes can be nested arbitrarily. So here the name itself suggests it's a complex. How we can represent this is, you can see one example we have given. So just to go through this, so address phone, that we have nested with the phone. Okay, in that area code, phone number, area code is 8086 for 8386 for Kumta, like that, and phone number, which is a number of the institution or any other your personal numbers, that you can nest as a phone. Okay, and this is a address phone, correct, and it has address and phone both are nested here in one field, where in phone it is further nested. It is, you can call it as nesting within the nest. Okay, so such attributes you can call it as a complex attributes. Such attributes can be called as a complex attribute. You see here address. Okay, two attributes we have joined here. One is address and another one is phone. This is a phone, okay, which is further contains number of sub attributes such as the area code and phone number. Address, it is further having a sub attribute such as the street address, number, street, apartment number, like that, city, state, city. So such attributes you can call it as a complex attributes, and the complex attribute is written in actually here you can see the components of the composite attribute. See, we have to be very clear here. The composite attributes the components of the composite attribute is written in the parentheses and separating the components with the commas. So that is what here. Address, it is written in street address, number, street, apartment, each are separated by comma, and multi-valued attributes between braces. So here you see this is a multi-value attribute. It is written within the brace. So these are the different types of